Good morning and welcome to day 2 of the Division 2 Australian Ultimate Championships, coming to you live from Wollongong here on the beautiful south coast of New South Wales. My name's Max Stenstrom. I'm being joined in the commentary booth for this wonderful matchup by Hilary Hume. Hilary, who have we got before us this morning?
Before us this morning we've got Fyshwick Unit versus Melbourne Colossus. Max, run us through the team really quickly. You know Fyshwick very well, having played with them for a number of years. Can you give us a bit of insight into what they're going to be looking for today?
Yeah, sure. As a local Canberran, I know that for these guys, they come here with one purpose, and that's to complete the three-peat. They're defending champions. They've won it for the last 2 years. So obviously come in with a lot of expectations on their head and associated with them. And there've been a lot of roster changes from last year. So they've got a point to prove to show that they can still be that competitive team right at the top end of this tournament, despite a lot of those names that helped them get there in the past not necessarily being here this year. So they've lost people like Tom McCallum and Bill Foreman and Nick Hodson, who've all made the step up onto the Division 1 team this year, and players like Warwick Shepherd and Phil Swan going out the other way and retiring from Ultimate. So they've lost some big key pieces, but having said that, they've also gained a few, the likes of James Lay, James Oral O'Reilly, Gareth Bayers, and the like. So, you know, it's a real case of can they integrate those new pieces into the system and find the success that the previous players were able to achieve.
That's right. And Melbourne Colossus, how do you think they're going to fare up today?
Well, they're a bit more of an unknown for me. Colossus, obviously, coming from a very well-established club, Heads of State. This is their third team, their C team, if you will. And I was chatting to them before this game, and they were saying that this year they've been a little bit more independent from their Division 1 compatriots. They've been operating a little bit separately, doing a lot of their trainings independently from the Juggernaut and Carnage teams from the Heads of State club. But having said that, they also have Brendan Ashcroft coming in to coach this year, who's obviously got a Frisbee resume as long as your arm and has played at the highest levels and brings a sense of professionalism to everything that they do in terms of their preparation, both on field, in the gym, on the track. I know he puts a big emphasis on that kind of thing, the physical conditioning, and then also some of that mental preparation as well.
How do you think he's helping with that mental preparation as well?
Well, I know that Brendan Ashcroft and his co-coach Anita Sue have been putting a lot of emphasis on that, and in terms of being ready and in the right space and having the right team values. I was chatting to them earlier and they said they had a couple of key values that they try to use to inform everything they do, both on and off the field, and those are family, integrity, intensity, and growth. And so, I mean, I imagine that intensity will be reflected in how they play, and their family and integrity and how they support each other and respect the opposition. So, you know, they have a lot to prove, but I think they'll be able to put on a great show here. How have both of these teams, Hill, fared so far this tournament in terms of their results and where they're at?
So Fyshwick yesterday went down to 2 games, losing to winning against Ironbark Grey and winning against Extinction, but losing to Crank, and just before they lost to Fresh Chili. While Colossus has only lost 1 against Crank yesterday, and they beat Fresh Chili and Extinction, and this morning they won against Ironbark Grey. So it'll be an interesting game to see how they fare up. The wind is actually picking up, so we'll see which team can actually adapt to these conditions. How much do you think this affects players at the moment?
Oh, well, as we speak, it's definitely picking up. It's coming towards the camera as we're sitting here. And both teams have plenty of powerful throwers as Wallace sends that pull to start the game. But just on paper and just from what I've seen this morning in their first matches, you'd have to say that Fishwick have the big power handlers, not so many of the smaller technical throwers, but the big power handlers to really throw through these conditions, and that might prove decisive. As we saying that, Tom Walcott will bring the disc into play. One of those huge throwers, easily capable of ripping a disc through some tough conditions. Lay works it sideways to O'Reilly, and it looks like we'll have a little call. There's a bit of contact on that catch. This handling trio of Walcott, Lay, and O'Reilly all have huge arms on them and have absolutely no fear when it comes to shooting a disc deep.
Should we just quickly go to our game advisor, Hannah Monty, see if she's got any perspective on this?
Sorry, Hannah's not marked up.
Oh, sorry guys. We've got Stephen Baker our game advisor for the day, mic'd up well far away from the call right now. What's your perspective, Stephen?
It's a bit hard to tell. I was a bit far away. Hannah was right there. They are going a little long. They've been going 40 seconds now, so I'm going to blow the whistle in a sec, and it should be treated as a contested in that case.
Judging by the hand signals, it was a foul call, and as Stephen mentioned, the game advisors, one of their roles is to blow whistles to let the players know how long discussions have been going for, so that we can keep the game flowing, hopefully, and at home you guys get something fun to watch with not too much downtime. The disc will go back to Lay in the centre of the field. He's a previous Division 1 player who's made the step down to Division 2 this year. Plenty of experience and throwing prowess he brings to this team, as we see him throw an inside forehand that gets cleaned up by Spendelwinder.
Spendelwinder?
That's his name. And he goes forehand to Sparks. Sparks, the captain of this team, one of the younger members, but he's been a crucial part of their success the last couple of years, and he's really stepped up this year to take on a leadership role as Bird goes back to Spendelwinder. He's a young player who's found some success recently, being picked for the Australian Under-19s Thunder team. And he's found a crucial role on this Fishwick unit squad. As Waller walks to the disc, there's a striking resemblance to the illustrious Tom Tullett of Australian Ultimate. He's rocking the man bun, rocking the 87 on his back, so he has big things to live up to. I have heard him referred to as Cup Fake. And we'll see how he can pilot this offense as he goes with a nice inside backhand into the center of the field. As we see, he's looking to get every second pass, and he launches an arcing backhand. That's a visionary shot across the field. A very aggressive option, but it doesn't work out there.
Into space, but the disc was actually at a very severe angle, making it really difficult for the receiver to grab it.
Yeah, it's a high risk, high reward shot. If it comes off, everyone will applaud him, and then when it doesn't, he just looks a bit silly.
Does that happen to you often, Max, as a handler?
Looking silly? Absolutely.
Yeah.
And now Lay brings it back into restart play for Fishwick. Got single coverage defense from Colossus with a poach off the front of the stack, someone sitting in the lane. That's Waller. Looking to make Fishwick's life difficult in that short underspace. Trusting the wind to make the long shots difficult. But no one's told that to James Lay as he immediately shoots. Though, and that one will fly out the right-hand side of the field as he looks at it. Not able to get that to arc back into the wind. The breeze is really picking up, coming towards the camera, so it pushed that disc out the near sideline. Now Waller will bring it back in with the intimidating mark of Walcott on him. Walcott pushing 6'9", 6'10", using his large frame to great effect. But Waller has no problems getting around it. Big swing across the field. That's where they want to be, on that high side hill.
That's right. They're moving it nicely through their handlers, though, and they've got plenty of receivers coming back.
We spoke yesterday about how important it can be to get the disc to the high side in terms of providing a lot more opportunities for offensive flow. And so far, it looks like Hoss is able to do that really with a lot of ease. And that pass seemed to go straight to Spendelwinder. Not 100% sure what who the intended target was. And they'll swing it to the high side. Sparks' backhand floats out into space a little bit, and a great effort by O'Reilly to reel it in, but not able to keep it within the field despite the great catch. And Colossus will get another chance. This is not possession clean ultimate so far. We've seen plenty of turns in the first point of this match.
Colossus respecting the wind, though. They know that they need to move it quickly and onto the far side of the field to get it an easy shot. Because as you know, Max, as a handler, you want to be with the wind, not against it.
That's right. Life can be difficult when you're dealing with breezes like this. But Colossus, again, suffering due to that wind. Not able to string more than a few passes together. And again, Lay will bring the disc back in. This time on the high side of the field. Probably a better position to be shooting from than where he shot his forehand from earlier. But he'll swing to O'Reilly. Fyshwick. Look for Sparks, but it's too far out in front and the wind pushes it down. I think in tough conditions like this, there's something to be said as we see another cheap turnover for playing a bit more of a territory-based game, perhaps. Fishwick unit have the players to play that aggressive shot-taking style as they get the disc into the hands of Walcott. I'd love to see a deep cut there, and it doesn't come. It's a little late. Gibson in acres of space underneath on the near side. He reaches for Sparks. Sparks moves it to Spenderwinder. High side to O'Reilly, but the wind pushes it down.
Max, can you tell us a bit about the importance of this game being the final pool play for these gentlemen?
This tournament format means, and their results so far mean, that this is a game that would allow Colossus, if they get the win, to take second spot in their pool, which would obviously allow them a much easier pre-quarter match. Both teams having lost to Wollongong Crank already mean they're not really in contention for that top of the pool spot, but this could well be the battle for second if you're Colossus. And if Fishwick go down here, they could well be out of contention, leaving Chile and Colossus going through. Would have some weird tied situations potentially if Fishwick get up here that may require a little bit more detailed examination of the draw. As Colossus work it back into the hands of Waller. The inside backhand picked up nicely by Gibson as it popped up in the wind.
Angus Gibson, formerly an F-Troop player, has really good field awareness.
And James Lay out in front, launches the big backhand, sees Walcott in the end zone. He had no excuses that his target wasn't big enough with Tom Walcott on the end of it. But that one, the big outside in, probably the wrong angle in a wind like this. Gets underneath it, pushes it up and over the head. But it does mean that Colossus will have to work the full length of the field as we get an early timeout call in the first point of the match. We'll take this opportunity to thank our sponsors, Destination Wollongong, for providing these beautiful fields to us. It's not often that you have a venue and a tournament in such a beautiful location. We're lucky enough to have the largest domestic tournament in Australia, Hillary.
I have to say, Max, that seems to be your favourite quote of the day, or even of the tournament. You love mentioning that. But thank you again to Destination Wollongong. They're able to host over 40 teams, over 740 players, coaches and admin staff. It's an incredible feat and a beautiful grounds. I'm loving it.
We've absolutely been blessed with the sunny conditions as well. We've got plenty of wind, which is making it tough, but we haven't had a hint of rain, at least not during the day. We had a little bit last night, but that's dried up now. Don't have any excuses of a slightly greasy disc or a wet surface. As we go out live to you on YouTube, do feel free to write in the comments. We'll do our best to respond to anything that we see there, answer your questions, and get back to you if we can, and if we know the answers.
Max, just a quick update on the weather, because I know you love that.
Yep.
We're looking at a northwesterly 30 kilometres per hour, and it doesn't look like it's going to decrease. So this will be an interesting moment.
So it's not just a case of yesterday morning where we saw one half of Frisbee dominated by the wind and then the second half dominated by crisp, clean offense. The whole game they'll have to work hard to punch it through this wind and find a way to find success when they're not able to easily string passes together. As Jeffcott moves it through their center and straight through the hands of Evan Tyson. And Lay picks it up again. Fishwick unit didn't have Lay yesterday. He was unable to get the day off work, so he arrived this morning, and you can see how important he is to this offense. His range of throws, throwing an inside forehand like that into the teeth of a breeze this strong, pretty exceptional as he does it again and finds O'Reilly, who moves it to Sparks. He's on the doorstep. He's about 30 centimeters outside. Looks to Lay again. Every second pass. No, not in. Inches away. Looks inside again, and he finds Spenderwinder. 3 inside-out forehands from James Lay that point in the end is what the recipe for success that they needed. The question is that a reliable strategy that they're going to be able to repeat time and time again, or is that high risk in conditions like this?
Great question, Max. I was actually going to ask, how much do you think people are going to be focusing on James Lay and getting the disc back to him? He said he got every second pass. He's a crucial player in this team. And with these conditions, you need a really strong handler. But you did mention that there's been a bit of a changeover with some of the experienced players with Fyshwick unit. What do you think their strategy is going to be for today?
James Lay does form a crucial part of this offense, as we saw there, you know, getting every other pass in the end to move it up that high side. But I think that was only just because that's how it worked out at that point. They have plenty of options, and their roster is deep when it comes to throwing ability, even in tricky conditions like we see here today. You know, I mentioned Tom Walcott and James O'Reilly that last point, both capable of punching one through difficult, windy conditions. On this D-line that gets out there now, you've got equally players just as strong in terms of working it through tough conditions as well. Players like Andrew Lance on this D-line and Jesse Wallace they'll look to as well to take some options. And also absolutely have to mention David Evans, the younger brother of the illustrious Mark Evans. He's got a mean hammer, and I don't say that as a joke. Even in conditions like this, his hammer is pinpoint accurate, so expect to see that, and he's utterly fearless with its use. As he gets the disc in his hands now, he's about 10 metres out, goes to the high sideline to Herlig Smith, a product of the ANU Ultimate Club. And Lance, oh, Herlig Smith, that's a nice one-handed grab under pressure. The high release backhand, a little flip into the end zone, and that's a pick call.
Unfortunate, as you were just talking up Evans, and then he gets the score to only be turned back for a pick.
It's not the commentator's curse. Usually it'd be the other way around. He'd drop it as soon as I said he was good. That's right. But he delivers.
I think he knew that you were talking about him, and he was playing up that.
Oh, he's a very talented player, no doubt about it, both on the Frisbee field, and I also believe he's got an illustrious esports career, so do check him out in the League of Legends world as well. As the wind is absolutely going nuts here in Wollongong. We're holding everything down. Everything that's not nailed down is flying away. And we'll see how Herlig Smith with the disc in his hands reacts. Cool head beyond his years. As he goes up the line to Andrew Lance. That's Samet clearing out. He's got Clark underneath, and Clark holds on, and that's a break. So after a really tough-looking first point, with Fishwick looking like they were struggling to score in these tough conditions, their D-line comes out and shows them how it's done.
Max, we're only 2 points in, but I already feel like the game's been going forever.
The first point was definitely a lengthy one. That one a lot quicker. Looks like Fishwick's found their recipe for success. In that point there, little passes. They didn't feel a need to go high side in the end.
They did cram it down in that low side, but they had the composure to get it in. They waited for the opportunity, and that's all you need to do in these situations. You can't risk anything. With the wind the way that it's going, you can't put up these lofty throws. You need to make sure that you've got pinpoint accuracy when you throw it.
There's really small margins for error in conditions like this, as you say. Anything with a hint of angle on it that allows the wind to come underneath is going to really pop up, and you'll often lose control of it. Likewise, if you show the top of the disc to the wind, it's going to arc down into the ground and not sit up at all. So absolutely as flat as you can with as much spin as you can is the word of the day. These are conditions that will challenge the best of them though. And the Fishwick D-line will stay on the field. We've got Bayers launching this one. Bayers not short on international experience. He's pulled on the South African Mumbas jersey before, I believe. And he's now plying his trade in Canberra.
A former Victorian, well, not a Victorian state level player, but a former Melbourne player of lots of mixed league teams and lots of men's opens teams. He has a wealth of experience.
As a pack forms underneath it, that one getting caught under as the wind picks up. And Lance will move this disc to Herlig Smith in the center. He has Blacklock underneath. Blacklock, one of the younger athletes on this team, played with the Canberra under-22s team towards the end of last year. Bayers on the high side. That's a lovely around backhand in tough conditions. Finds Hames. Recently voted as the ANU Ultimate Club's #1 defender. He goes back to Lance, but Lance can't hold on as Adrian Lim streams to the end zone. Adrian Lim, a real leader for this Colossus team. He played on the Australian under-24 Goannas team when they found medal success at the recent under-24 World Championships in Perth. And he reaches, to the end zone, but slightly too far out in front of the hands, and it can't be reeled in by, I believe that's Abachez Matthias, an equally talented young player. He won green and gold last year at the Under-22 Championships. An incredibly athletic defender. Expect him to do a lot of work for this Colossus team. As Lance and Lim match up, that'll be a great one to watch throughout the course of this match. And Bayers, unfazed by the wind, launches a forehand, and Malcolm Gill holds on as a little bit of miscommunication between himself and Helig Smith almost leads to disaster. And Colossus will look to capitalize quickly, and they'll shoot deep with a flat laser forehand. Finds Lim. The cool head prevail, and he slows it down. High release backhand to the low side of the field, and that's a goal as he finds Jake Williams streaming into the end zone unmarked. And that will take it to 2-1. So Melbourne Colossus steady the ship. You saw how much of a difference maker Adrian Lim is at that point. Not necessarily being an every second pass man, but providing the outlet necessary to keep the disc moving, and obviously very safe hands and great throws to go with it. His diminutive stature would make you think that he would spend most of his time in the handler space, yet at that point he was downfield quite a lot, being on the receiving end of a 3/4 field length laser forehand. And the pool will come up, and it may well be caught by the wind, and that'll sail well out onto the field behind us.
Max, with throws like this and pulls like this, how important is it to get a brick mark or a sideline pull? How much does it help?
Oh, huge amounts, Hillary. In tricky conditions like this, if you have to bring the disc in on the downwind side with time for the defense to set up around you, it's one of the most difficult positions to be in as a handler. Conversely, if you get to bring it in the middle of the field, about 15 metres up, as Lay does now, it opens up options like that. An inside backhand to the high side of the field, exactly where they want the disc. And now Lay gets it again. And he looks to move quickly, but he maybe rushes it. It goes to turf. Lay and Lim now matched up. That'll be one to watch. And we see Isaac Bell take the field for the first time. He's on the mark against Waller. Happy birthday to him. It's his 21st birthday today, and we'll see whether his team can deliver him a birthday gift in the form of a W at the end of this game. And Asher Gentle hits Austin Bird underneath. Austin Bird, an absolute speedster. Expect to see him heading deep. He's been known to rack up the stats. And just there, that pass from him to Gentle, not able to be held onto. He shorted it just a touch, making it difficult. Almost hitting the turf, but Lim directing traffic, pointing where he wants his players to go. Gets it back. And he'll shoot deep. He's got a player streaking. He's got a couple of players streaking. And that one, single-hand attempt by Nick Netscher. There's a lesson for all the players out there. Two hands. Two hands. Not just for beginners, but for everybody. Doesn't matter if you're at Nationals or you're playing in your local social league. If you can get two hands to it, especially in windy conditions, do it.
As we watch the replay as well, he had plenty of time to pull out two hands, grab that disc nice and safely. Instead went for the easy look.
O'Reilly wastes no time shooting it back the other way, looking for Isaac Bell. He's been a big target for them was going to say all weekend, but also all season long. He's been a bit of a revelation this year. His background is in AFL. I believe he captained the Northern Territory under-18s team, so a real athlete. And he's now turning those athletic skills and talents towards the Frisbee field. And well, I know Fishwick's very glad to have him.
We've got a turnover now back to Fishwick. They get to take the disc in close to the end zone line. What are you expecting to see here, Max?
Well, what I am seeing is James Lay with the disc, no surprises there, and they've isolated Isaac Bell in the lane. See whether his agility and speed will get him open. They won't. And Gentle will go up line. In the end, Bell gets the dump, back in the field position. He'll flip back to Lay. He goes aggressive with the high release backhand to Gentle. Cannot underestimate the difficulty of the throws that Lay is consistently completing in this win. A high release backhand into the teeth of the breeze like that, unbelievably difficult. You saw it flutter a little bit, but it got to where it needed to go, and Gentle has a safe pair of hands. And in the end, that's a hold by the Fishwick offense line.
Max, you've trained with Fishwick unit before. What do you think their goals and tactics are going to be for the game?
I think in tricky conditions like these, you've got to continue to take your aggressive options. You can't get tentative and you can't get scared of taking those difficult shots. They've got players obviously to do it. We've been talking up James Lay, who's not only a player on this team, but a coach of the Fyshwick A team, Fishwick United. And there are plenty of other players that have showed no fear taking those shots. And I think they've got to have faith in those systems. Just as the Colossus team have their team values of integrity and family, where they believe in each other and have faith in each other to get the job done, I'm sure that Fishwick will bring the same belief in their own style to this game. They've never been a team that's shied away from the big shot, and so far they've been rewarded by it, and I expect them to continue to do that. Defensively now we see their first look at the zone. I think this is a good variation as they go to Matthias as he streaks up the line. And Wallace goes past. Blacklock on the mark as it looks like they move sideways to Lim. Talbot goes up line, can't get open. They laser a backhand into the chest of Charlie Medic. And then eventually find Matthias in the front corner of the end zone. A rapidly approaching Blacklock wasn't enough to prevent the throw going up or the catch being made. And that's a quick hold from Colossus. Probably the most comfortable looking offensive hold we've had this game.
And the quickest point potentially so far. I'm just reading about Melbourne Colossus. Their aim for this tournament was to come away with gold. If they keep up that offensive play, they'll get there. What do you think they need to change though? They are still 1 point down. They need to close in on that gap and get the lead. What would you do differently?
I think at this early stage in the match, they don't really need to be looking for significant tweaks or adjustments. Just continue to, do what they're doing best. Just that last point looked great from Colossus, and they'll want to do more of that just through their hands. Both teams scoring in this downwind end zone, downwind sideline pretty repeatedly, and I'd like to see them attack from the high side a little more. But now that they've got those connections, Matthias has got on the field a little bit more and provided a little bit more downfield for them. Early on in the game, they're looking very comfortable going sideways in the handler movement, but not able to link that up with downfield players as much. They'll continue to look for those downfield connections a little more and hopefully find success with them. Thanks to Wab Tonio, who's commented in on the live stream, asking us if Chris Waller is the best player on this Colossus team. I'm not sure about that, but he may well have the best man bun. And that's not an easy feat in a team that sports a fair few of them. So shout out to him for that. And Fishwick find lay up the line in a power position. He has players going deep. Sparks and Gibson have a look, but he'll go back to O'Reilly. O'Reilly, having previously played on the Newcastle men's team I-Beam, has moved to the cooler climes of Canberra. And I do have to say, orange suits him. Really makes his eyes pop as he goes to O'Reilly again in the center. And he'll shoot, but well read and well cut out by Jake Wilson. It was an aggressive shot looking for Gibson deep, but the front of the stack reads it like a book. And Colossus with the disc. Jeffcott in the center. Jeffcott and Waller forming the handler pair that will do a lot of the work on this Colossus line. They have 3 lines. They have 2 distinct D lines and 1 offensive line. They've got 24 players at this tournament, probably one of the largest rosters here. And all their lines are named after Coach Carter references, the well-known basketball movie. In true Coach Carter fashion, their D lines are named after girlfriends of the character, Coach Carter, Diane and Delilah, I believe. I'm not sure which one this is. As Lay with the disc finds Gibson underneath. Gibson a very safe pair of hands.
Safe and very speedy.
Very quick. Sporting a great looking orange beard and riding a motorcycle. He's not short on attitude. And Lay, fearless, goes with the hammer. He's got Walcott underneath it. And would you believe it? He has about a 1.5 foot advantage over his defender and can't hold on.
Can't bring it in. Was it the sun in his eyes or he just missed the disc?
I think he'll be looking for every excuse under the sun he can find. But credit to Thomas Duncan for going up against the much taller, much more experienced Walcott. Walcott's played numerous Division 1 nationals. He's played in the green and gold at AUC, the Asia Oceanic Championships. He's no newbie to the sport, and Thomas Duncan does well. And we've got a foul call. Speaking of Asia Oceanic part of the world, we do want to give a quick shout out to the Asia Oceanic All-Stars who are heading over to the east coast of the US later this year in July to compete against the top US teams following World Clubs. They're a conglomeration of players from across the region. We've got some Australians on there, and there's plenty of Filipino and Malaysian and Indian players, women on that team as well, really showcasing the best of women's ultimate across the region. And they've got a Kickstarter, so get around that. But James Lay shoots deep. He's got Isaac Bell underneath. Happy birthday! A little too far. And his dog comes over to celebrate with him, and he'll take him back to mum.
That's beautiful. Everyone loves a dog.
Oh, puppies. I'm sure our stream numbers just went up through the roof there briefly. James Lay shakes his head. I think it was a good option, but the execution just not quite there. A little too much juice on it.
And that's the second disc I think James has thrown up. He keeps looking back into the wind to see where it's coming from. I think he knows that his discs aren't coming out the way that he wants, and he's just trying to adjust every single time.
Adjust he'll continue to do until he finds success. And Waller now marked by Bell. And Waller shoots deep. That's going to blade over and turn over, but it's well read and picked up as Jeffcott shoots again. Fat side forehand. That's a nice throw into plenty of space. And
players, no defenders in sight.
And Aiden Howard will be rewarded. That's the spot to shoot on from, that high side back across the field to the downwind sideline. Always a much easier shot.
Colossus now breaking even with Fishwick at 3 apiece.
I think Fishwick can take something from that Colossus playbook, work to get the disc to the high side and then take their aggressive shots from there. Just opens up the margin for error just a little bit. Those difficult shots that Lay's taking from the near side, they're pretty commendable, and he's been almost there a couple of times, but from the high side, the margin of error is much bigger. I'm sure they'll complete a few more. And we get a timeout call from Fishwick. They'll take a break, they'll have a drink. So will we, but don't go anywhere as we continue this first half at the Division 2 Australian Ultimate Championships. And welcome back. Fishwick unit against Melbourne Colossus. It's been neck and neck so far in pretty gusty, difficult conditions. Both teams really struggling to play the clean, clinical offense that they've been known for in the lead up to this tournament.
Max, we've got Pat Sparks as the captain for Fishwick unit, but I'm sure he's got a great leadership team of experienced players. What do you think these young guns bring to the team? How do they provide benefit to these sorts of teams?
Pace and athleticism. Simple as that, Hillary. Players like Isaac Bell and Austin Bird both just bring incredible amounts of pace. Malcolm Gill, maybe not the youngest guy on the team, but definitely one of the quickest. And he's also a rookie on this roster. O'Reilly shoots deep to Bayers underneath. Bayers pulls that one down. Nicely read, using the length to get above his defender. Goes back to Gentle. Gentle working the pivots, working the mark. Around a bidding mark to Bayers again. That's a great quick score from the Fishwick offense. Credit to O'Reilly and to Bayers there. It was a great shot into the wind, and Bayers does well to read it.
Great look from O'Reilly, and well done to Bayers, pulling that down with the defender right on his shoulder. The pressure was there. How do you deal with that when you're going up for a disc and someone's right there on your shoulder?
Boxing out obviously is always incredibly important. Get in front position that we've talked about before, and Bayers does a great job of it there. And then in the end, managing to keep a cool head. So often players will make a big play like that and then immediately toss it into the turf. He just dumps it nice and cool, gets back into the stack, and then makes another good cut and is rewarded with the stat sheet, showing that he'll come down with the goal for that one. Colossus at the other end of the field will have to find something a little bit extra at this point in terms of a response to that. It always adds a little bit of extra pressure when an offense line gets out there and makes it look easy in 3 or 4 pass offense. It asks a question of the other team. Can you do the same, or do you need to work it through the hands a lot? Is there going to be 4 or 5 turnovers? Is there a lot more pressure? And Wallace with the big pull. The big inside out from the far side. And that'll get caught by the wind and will be out for a brick. It'll be brought back into the field by Williams. As the wind picks up, Fishwick will stick with their match defense, their single coverage. As Colossus will operate out of a horizontal stack. It looks like they've got Lim will be their primary look coming out of the center. He's sitting a touch under at the moment, and he'll head deep. And the first pass is wayward, not able to be held onto despite the best efforts of Alex Marr. Lance picks up the lefty. Looking for Wallace, not able to provide much in the dump space. Eventually gets open for the around. Wallace goes high side to Evans. Can't hold on as the wind makes it bubble. And Fishwick unit will find their assignees and go back to work on defense. Helix Smith on the mark. Hegloff looks to Lim. Lim has options going deep, and he'll shoot it. Out in front of his player. Can he get there? Great layout attempt, but not able to get his hand underneath it was Joshua Halliday. It was an ambitious shot, very flat. Didn't have a hint of touch on it. Asking a lot of his receiver, and his receiver almost had the answer to that question. Halliday goes fully horizontal. Not able to dig that one out of the turf. And Lance will have another opportunity to guide and pilot this offense back down the field. Lance is probably a perfect counterpoint to players like Lay and O'Reilly. He's known for his cool head, willingness to throw 115-meter passes and work it up the field, relying more on the athleticism and legs of his teammates. As the German import, Lee with the disc, goes crossfield to Helix Smith. Sees Clark on the near side, does a good job to tow it in. Despite his size, Tom Clark is only the second largest Tom on this team. Not able to find his target, and we get a turnover.
That was challenging conditions there for Fyshwick. They needed to generate a few more cuts coming up the line. The handlers had a tough role trying to pass it amongst each other, and in the end they just had to throw it into space, see if anyone could get it. Unfortunately, they couldn't.
Colossus does a great job working it sideways up to the high side and immediately shooting deep. That was textbook offense in conditions like these, and they were rewarded with a textbook goal to Joshua Halliday. That's an almost mirror image of the earlier shot that Lim took into the same position, that arcing forehand that sits up nicely for his receiver in plenty of space. And Halliday's rewarded for his work rate. But you know what, despite that, I feel like Unit will be happy with that defensive effort. They got the top stop, they got the turn. And while they weren't able to get the goal and the break in the end, making the Colossus offensive line really have to work for it is something that they'll consider a win. And over the course of the game, they'll build that pressure, and eventually it will be reflected on the scoreboard, which at the moment stands at 4 apiece.
Max, we've got Craig Graham coaching Fishwick Unit this season. He's a former player of Fishwick Unit and has many years' experience. Any insight into what he's been telling his boys?
I know that Craig is a real believer in just getting the little things right. He'll be wanting them to keep their work rate high, to clear out, and to provide good options with their legs. And in conditions like this, those fundamentals, getting those fundamentals right, is even more important than it is in nice conditions, because it's much harder to be rescued by a miracle shot or a difficult throw. So they'll be looking to focus on the fundamentals, get the little things right and be rewarded. I'm sure that Ashcroft and Sue on the other end of the field will have dreamt up something tactically interesting for their defensive players to bring down now. Perhaps some kind of variation on what they've been doing. A big outside in backhand by Waller. Perhaps a better shape than the one chosen earlier by Wallace, which was the inside out. As Gentle gets the disc and shoots deep for Lay. And Lay does a great job going over the top of his player, showing his versatility going downfield. Goes the lefty backhand to Bayers. Bayers has Sparks. Sparks, couple of meters out, looks at Spindle window, won't take it. Bayers up line, bobbled and not held onto. It was great defensive effort by Mike Jeffcott. Apologies, that was Wesley Flavel. And now Waller centers the Frisbee.
That's great movement across the field. As a handler, you want to send it to that side.
They've been very disciplined about taking that as their first option before looking downfield, and I think they've been rewarded as Flavel streaks deep. They'll look for him. Bayer's in pursuit, but that's not going to sit up for anybody. That's well too far out in front. Flavel didn't have a snowball's chance in hell of getting to that one. He had plenty of separation, but the throw, just 2 or 3 too many wheat picks this morning from Jeffcott. And Bayers will bring it back in. In the horizontal stack, it's a relatively deep horizontal with Lay and Spenderwinder in the middle. Sparks will run deep as the handlers recycle it. Goes to Bayers again. To Gibson, and it bounces off his chest. You can't ask much more than that as a receiver, having the Frisbee on your chest, but can't hold on.
Max, could this be the turning moment for Colossus?
No, I believe not. After a great effort by Bayers, swats that one.
Spoke too soon.
And Lay on the near side has Gibson going deep, but not a lot of separation. Spenderwinder underneath. He'll get it. Keeps the stall count low as Lay goes up line. Spenderwinder reaches for him. Lay underneath it. Will pluck it nicely. He has Sparks up line. Doesn't want it. Looks back across the field. Not a lot of movement. Spenderwinder goes up line and James Lay will go to him. Cramming it down the cram hole.
That was the narrowest of narrow channels to throw that into, and they stuck to that sideline. If I was them, I would have been looking to swing it to the other side. I don't like playing on the sideline, but they did it. They just showed they don't care how much space they've got. I'm going to just pop that in and score right there.
Taking the conventional wisdom textbook and throwing it out the window. Fishwick unit getting it done in the way that I'm sure every single coach at this tournament would say don't do it. They get it done anyway. They jam it down the jam hole the whole way down the sideline. Upline cut, upline cut, upline cut, upline cut, and they find success in the end. Sure, Colossus will look to stop that upline cut a little bit more next point, but they were rewarded that point. Great work by the young Oliver Spenderwinder and James Layer, linking up a couple of times along that sideline, and in the end, taking it to 5-4. They're closing in on half now. Neither team really been able to gain the ascendancy for any period of time. Been trading back and forth.
We're just watching the replay there. James closing in on that disc. He had 2 defenders coming at him, and he still got it. Great hands there.
And then a lovely little forehand out in front. Makes it easy for his receiver. And this is another opportunity for the Fishwick D-line. Hames with the pull now. And they'll center it to Williams. Williams goes far side, back to Williams. To Talbot. Easily the most experienced player on this team. A stalwart of the Heads of State Club and the Victorian Ultimate scene. Ex-author of Force Sideline, without a doubt one of the greatest Frisbee blogs ever written. RIP Force Sideline as they reach deep for Adrian Lim. And Hames coming across the back, looking to get involved, not able to get in front. Nice work by Lim to keep his body in position. And we've got a goal. I think it was a strip call that won't be contested quickly at all. And the Fishwick offense will be back on the field. Colossus respond. They keep it neck and neck, 5 apiece.
Fishwick walking onto the field, not looking very enthusiastic. Do you think the other team knows that?
The mental battles that are displayed in the body language of players always feed into the atmosphere. Even if it's not conscious, you can feel it when one team's got their heads down. They may be a little bit quiet on the sideline. There's an opposition, you can feed off that. And then vice versa. If the opposition is loud, they're up and about, they're energetic, they're enthusiastic, they're engaged, you can feel that, and it's intimidating as a player. And you know that there's plenty of pressure on you to execute next time you're on the field and to do your job. So without a doubt, it's very important, especially in conditions like these where you know it's not going to be clean ultimate and you know you're going to have to grind out some scrappy points. Having said that, Unit definitely has the experience advantage, and you'd expect that experience advantage to be important in tight games such as this one and in tricky conditions such as these. We'll see whether that is decisive in the end, or whether the athleticism and the large roster of Melbourne Colossus will prevail. As the big backhand comes up, and it'll be fielded by O'Reilly. Looks like Fishwick will operate out of a side stack, isolating Gibson underneath in plenty of space. Doesn't have a mark. He'll shoot deep. He's got Isaac Bell. Isaac Bell, great grab. In stride out in front. He's got Gibson streaking again, and he gets it back. A nice high one-handed take by Angus Gibson under pressure. And that's another bit of textbook offense from Fishwick. They put their side stack on the low side of the field, opening up the high side. Plenty of space. They find Gibson totally unmarked to get that play moving. He's fearless in shooting long.
You're right, Max. That was textbook ultimate. It looked like they just called exactly what they wanted and they got it. Big throws, nice and high. The players had to jump up to get it, but safe hands.
We see that nice take by Bell on the end of the huck from Gibson. He's a speedy receiver. Gibson knew it as he led him a long way out in front. And then he gets the dish back. Rewards their favour. Happy birthday, Isaac Bell. That's an assist on the board. And Colossus will now have another opportunity.
Colossus showing more of the spirited, enthusiastic team vibes, clapping. Most of their players are there on the sideline, watching them, cheering them on. It's a different, it's a contrast, I guess, to Fishwick Unit. Do you think that'll affect them right now?
They're definitely different teams. They have different vibes. The Heads of State vibe and culture's maybe been a little bit notorious in the past, but it's definitely one that players buy into and gives them something to rally around. Fishwick Unit with its mixture of young and old, maybe a slightly different atmosphere and cohesiveness within the team. And so we'll see whether that is crucial. I guess only time will tell in terms of the result in this match specifically, as that one pops up in the wind. Plenty of players underneath it, but Lim comes down with it. He's been playing a lot of points as Bayers. And Lee will form the defensive shield at the front. Talbot with the disc, goes with an inside forehand. And Lim shoots deep, outside in backhand, turns over in the wind, and Clark does well to get there, swats it out of the sky.
Max, I think you were talking about Colossus's team values before, and I think that's just a credit to what you see now on the field. They're enthusiastic, they're really happy, they're all there supporting each other, and I think that's part of the entire club. They're there to build a culture, a good culture of...
What a throw! End-to-end stuff from Asher Gentle. He had David Evans coming underneath it for an open under. It says, hey, nobody got time for that. I am sending this one to the end zone as Isaac Jacobs on the receiving end of that piece of pie. That was beautiful from Asher Gentle. Heaps of separation. No hesitation with the throw. As we see that one went the full length of the field. Too easy. And again, Fyshwick United not bothering going to the high side first. They're willing to shoot from the difficult positions on the field.
As we watch the replay, great space, ran onto the disc. That was amazing.
Had it on a string the whole way down the field.
Challenging catch as well because he was right under the disc. So he had to look up into the sun, into the sky to see where it was coming from. Must have caught it just at the end as it was dipping down straight into safe hands.
There's a book and it's called Frisbee Conventional Wisdom 101. And all the things it says not to do in conditions like this and in a situation like that, they just did and they pulled it off. They hucked length of the field from the low side in the wind straight over the head of their receiver and just pulled it off. That's degree of difficulty off the scale and they complete it. Colossus on the other hand, oh! Simon Talbot says, what you can do, I can do better. He reaches, Hames underneath the Lim there as well. Hames does well to keep up with the speedy Lim. He does have the height advantage, but perhaps not the speed one, but he does well. Gets a hand to it. As we see again, it was blading away from both of them with the wind beneath it. And the Fishwick D-line, they'll have an opportunity. They'll form a vertical stack in the center of the field. Talbot sits off his player a little bit, looking to get involved, take away easy options into the lane, leaving Wallace wide open in the dump space. They'll want to hit that, and they do. Wallace, very experienced player despite his relatively young age, was the captain of the Australian under-20s team in 2012, but that's nicely read and cut out, and immediately Ruthless in the response. Colossus flipped that one into the end zone to Alex Marr. Punched that one home. That's an offensive hold. But again, Fishwick making them work for it. But Colossus, you feel like no matter the pressure that the unit defense place on them, they've been able to push through it, soak it up that pressure, and continue to get the job done. And unit haven't found an effective way to stop them from doing just that.
Unit right now on the doorstep of taking half. What are we going to see in this next point?
With the points as they are now, I'd expect you put a power line out there, maybe pull a few players across from the other line. When you're in a situation where you're 1 point away from halftime, it's a prime opportunity for the other team to try and get one back on you. So it's an offensive line from Fishwick unit.
Looks like they're stacking the line as well with their experienced players. We've got Bayers, Walcott, Lay, and O'Reilly mixed in with Spelderwind. And who else have we got there, Max?
Gentle and Bird. Byers usually playing on their defensive line, coming across, adding his versatility. He can handle, he can go deep. He's got very strong safe throws at this wind. They'll be looking to use that at this point. Conversely, Colossus sticking with their regular D-line. I think this is Delilah. that's out on the field. As Gentle brings it in on the near side. He's got Walcott in the dump space. The big man, he goes across field to Lay. He's got Byers going deep, doesn't want it. Sizes up his options as the wind really picks up. Goes to spin the window on the inside. That's a nice inside break. Not a lot happening downfield. Needs to look at his dump. Doesn't. Continues to stare upfield. Eventually finds O'Reilly with the bailout. Goes to Walcott. Does well to hold on to that as it dips to his left as the wind really roars. O'Reilly working hard to get open in the dump space. Can't find much. Lay provides the outlet. 2 meters out. Finds Byers underneath. And that's a goal. And that's half. 8-6 to Fishwick unit. The wind really picking up that point and Fishwick picking up as well. They respond and have a 2-point lead going into half. These teams will take a quick break and so will we, but stay tuned for what's sure to be a tight one here from Division 2 Australian Ultimate Championships.
Down, try to keep me down, but I'll put the flame out, you can't get to me. Throw your sticks and your stones, go break all of my bones. You won't ache my soul, you can't get to me. And there is no barricade that I can tear away. Shoot me down to fire away, away. But I'm a heavyweight. I'm a heavyweight. I'm a heavyweight. I'm a push me down to the ground. What goes around comes around. You won't put the flame out, you can't get to me. Say what you wanna say, go take it all away. But I'm here to stay, no you can't get to me. And there is no barricade that I can tear away. Shoot me down, go fire away, away. But I'm a heavyweight. I'm a heavyweight. I'm a heavyweight. I'm a heavyweight.
Colossus. The story of the first half was a tight battle with Fishwick unit just managing to squeak out a lead into halftime of 8-6. I know that both teams have had a chance to reset and have a chat and have a think. Hillary, what is the Melbourne plan going to the second half?
Max, I just went over and listened in onto Colossus' circle. They're looking to stop any up-the-line cuts, but they're willing to give Fishwick unit what they're doing. They said, let them do what they want to do, let them play how they want to play, let's play our game today. They're going to respect the wind, though. They were noting that it's changing, it's very variable. They want to see some big backhand throws across the field to make space and to make those players look up and see what's going on. Did you get any insight into Fishwick unit at half?
They just want more of the same. They've obviously got themselves a 2-point lead. I say if we can replicate that effort in the back half of this game, that'll be a win on the board. Very important for them in terms of keeping their tournament alive and ensuring a better crossover matchup later into the pre-quarter round, the round of 16. As the play will be brought in to start by Jake Williams. He's been the pivot on this offensive line all game long. And Adrian Lynn has been the primary cutter all game long. And the years again, goes covered nicely by Hellig Smith. And Colossus has to go sideways, having to work pretty hard to provide options early in the second half. The Fishwick D-line working hard. They find Hagloff, moving up the field to Medic. Fakes it, goes around, can't get it off. Eventually comes under plenty of pressure to Halliday. Halliday goes again through the hands of Williams. He's been so safe all game, but can't hold on to that one.
Sideline are looking very stressed. They know how important this point is.
Lim delivers a great cutout block, and he immediately shoots long. Lance is caught napping, and they're ruthless in their response, and Halliday goes to the end zone and is rewarded with a lovely looping forehand from Adrian Lim. Absolutely ruthless once they got the disc. Can't give that Colossus O-line too many opportunities because they will put it in the end zone.
And great heads-up D as well.
Yeah, nicely read. Saw that coming a mile off. Got in front in the end, making the throw look a little bit unsure. Fishwick offensive line will want to replicate that ruthlessness with the disc. They've got Gentle, Gibson, Spelderwinder, Bell, Lay, Sparks and O'Reilly out there. It's the usual suspects. Plenty of athleticism, plenty of throwing ability. The challenge has been chemistry, connecting those two together. They're young athletes with their experienced throwers. When those connections are firing, when they're working nicely, nigh on unstoppable. But we've seen a few times when they don't connect and the results are not good.
That's right, Max. We've seen a few mistakes happen on field. We're now into the second half. I'm just being laughed at for saying mistakes.
It's tricky conditions. Some things don't always work, but Waller's backhand pull wheel, that's lovely. Sends down the field, O'Reilly to Gentle. Lay in space, goes the inside forehand to him. He holds on. He's got Bell going deep. He won't hesitate. He'll shoot. Gibson is behind, but Bell takes it nicely above his head with two hands. Gibson in the end zone, doesn't want it. Sees Sparks, not able to get open. Goes back to Spelderwinder. Surveys his upfield options. It's a vertical stack, but very static. Not a lot happening. O'Reilly provides an outlet. Gibson on the break side. Bell on the open side. Neither able to provide much that O'Reilly's willing to throw to. Lay holds on under pressure. Gibson streaming to the end zone. And a simple miscue from James Lay. Throws that one straight out the sideline. Comes out of their hand absolutely awfully. Totally misses his target. He'll be disappointed with that one. After some pretty nice offense, to be honest. And now Colossus with another opportunity. Waller in coffin corner, literally the worst spot on the field to have a disc. On that corner with the wind blowing into you. We've got perhaps an injury or a foul call downfield. Bit of contact between Flavel and O'Reilly. He's holding onto his head. his jaw, maybe a knock. We hope he's all right as the wind picks up. I'm sure they'll take a substitute and Gareth Bayers will replace him. This wind coming straight across the field, a little bit right to left, but mostly towards the camera. This will make Waller's life very difficult getting the disc out of this position.
Max, if you're in his position right now, what would you be doing? Sending it?
Calling a timeout and faking an injury, probably.
Waiting for the wind to die down?
Yeah, do anything other than try and throw it back into the teeth of this breeze. Very difficult. He may just have to look to send it deep, but maintains his composure and goes to the inside backhand, but can't be held onto by Lim as it gets popped up a touch. Now Fishwick will have the disc. Not far out to the end zone, but right on the sideline. It's a difficult spot to be in. Gentle in the dump space, left unmarked. James will attempt the swing pass, gets caught completely by the wind, send to the heavens, and it's Jeffcott that comes down with it. Waller, back to Jeffcott, back to Lim, looking to play small ball, recognizing that long shots are difficult to throw and win like this. Finds Lavelle, goes back to Lim, but it flutters. He holds on, lay on the mark. Lim launches one, Gibson's there, but not able to read it. In the end, he is. He was all over the place, looking over his left shoulder, looking over his right shoulder, didn't know where that was coming. Gives you an idea of just how tricky this breeze is. Well, this gale is, I should say.
You have no idea where the disc is going to go. Lay without a defender inside.
And Bell gritting his teeth in the breeze. You can see it's not an easy conditions. As Bayers makes it look easy, finds Spell to window, does a good job to tow it in. He's got Bell up line, he'll throw it. Can Bell get there? Can he keep it in? Yes, he can! We've said it before. Fishwick see the hardest part of the field to throw into, from the worst position to do it. And they take on that challenge. Upline passes down the downwind side of the field. It's an absolute gale. And in the end, they hold on. I don't know if it's fearless. I don't know if it's arrogance. I don't know if it's hubris. I don't know if it's foolishness. It's one of them. But it's working. Just.
Fishwick doing just what they can to get it in, really. I don't think it's any of those, Max. I think they're just trying to get points on the board and they'll do whatever they can. There's no textbook for them. They've burnt that. They've thrown that out the window. They're just going to say, I see a free defender, I'm going to throw it there. A free defender, a free receiver, I'm going to throw it there.
It's C player, throw the disc. They're not thinking twice about it. And maybe it's that lack of hesitation that's helping them be rewarded. They're redefining how to play in crosswind conditions, and it's working for them. But it does feel like they're hanging on by the skin of their teeth. Having said that, there's only so many times the Colossus defense can come off and say, oh, don't worry, we made them take the hard shot. If they keep doing that and they keep connecting it, you've got to switch something up if you're Colossus. What would you change, Hillary? They're forced into this downward sideline and Fishwick's taking it. What would you do as a Colossus defense to get that turn?
It's tricky. They're not going to win it on offense, are they? They have to do something different on their defense. I think they need to just follow with what they were saying at halftime, which is no up-the-line cuts. And
Talbot takes the aggressive across-field option back into the breeze, and it turns over and goes to turf. Lance goes inside to Blacklock. Blacklock attempts the one-handed catch. It looked like it was on his chest. Could have gone with two, and in the end, it's on the turf. It's in the dust, and Blacklock will go find his player. Couple of players shooting deep. Shoots from the high side, Talbot falls short. Helix Smith, he's there. I'm not sure if he actually got a hand on it, but he went to ground and to make sure of the D.
Great pressure applied, though. He was there.
And Lance winding up for the flick. Huck, he'll send it. He's got Isaac Jacobs there. Great hold under pressure. Williams was right on his hip. And he goes back to Evans and drops it. He does. Simple half-meter reset after a great huck down the line. Can't complete on that. It's a fair bit of irony.
Max, you just asked what I would change if I was Colossus. I think I'd be looking at just this sideline, because Unit are just throwing down this sideline. They don't really care about the rest of the field.
Throwing it down indeed as Helix Smith looks for Isaac Jacobs. Second time this point he's been looked at deep. Can't reel that one in. It's a little too far and fades out the side. Credit too to Evan Samet for the great cutout defense to get the possession back for Fyshwick. Now Talbot will bring it back in. He'll be marked by Evans. And we'll see how Colossus work to get it off this sideline. It really is a tricky spot to be in. We saw him attempt the crossfield inside flick before and it turned into a bit of a blade and ended up in the dust. We'll see what they do here. Setting up in what looks like a bit of a diag stack. It's been the flavour of the month this past probably 6 to 12 months in Australian Ultimate. A lot of teams trying it out. They do get it moving as they find the hands of Charlie Medic. Hard running gets it to Halliday underneath. Halliday's done great work going deep as he tries to find Matthias, but he can't hold on. Matthias used to play AFL in the academy down in Victoria. Great athlete, and he's now made the transition over to Ultimate Frisbee. They'll be looking to him to make a few more big plays on the defensive end of things to get them back into this game as Talbot will walk it up to the front of the end zone. It's turned into a bit of huck and dee, but there, it's the veteran Talbot taking it from where it landed, looking to get it moving quickly, and Evans swats that one out as Talbot looks to go up line. Lance, 3 meters out, goes inside to Hames. And we've got a pick call. There'll be a bit of chat. It'll come back. This is a break opportunity for Fishwick. This is important. It's a great spot to be in. Samet's in the dump if they need it. Looking downfield, Isaac Jacobs can't provide anything. Samet having to work hard. Big dub cut smearing across the back. Samet now, 3 meters out. Looks to Lance. And a bit of a push pass into the wind.
Miscommunication, that's not what they need right now.
If there is one throw you don't throw straight into a 35-kilometre-an-hour wind, it's a push pass. And Evan Samet.
He learnt the hard way.
Learnt it the hard way, indeed. There's some mistakes you don't make twice. It's probably one of them.
We've got a call. I'm not too sure what's happening. Steve, can you provide any insight?
There was a foul called somewhere. I think it might have been as everyone was streaming through. There was a bit of contact. So they've just reset it and good again.
Thanks, Steve. That's Steve Baker, head game advisor for today.
Well read by Nathan Hames. Hopping up, taking that one out of the skies as Blacklock with the disc moves it to Isaac Jacobs. Not providing the defense time to set here. Evans on the doorstep. He's got Helix Smith. He's got Samet. Got about 4 or 5 cutters going at once. They'll want to clean that up. Evans back to Helix Smith. Out in front of the bidding defender. Finds Hames. That's a break for Fishwick unit. They maintain their lead. It's 10-7. Double digits. And a 3-point lead for the first time this game. Hillary, how does Colossus respond? They're down by 3. This is an important game for determining their pre-quarter matchup. What do you do?
Tricky question there, Max. With this wind, you need to make sure that you're converting all of your passes. They were doing really well in offense. It's defense now that they need to just switch on. They've got those heads-up awareness. They've got those players who are getting great intercepts, but they need to be tighter on their players. We just saw Hames free in the end zone without a defender. You can't let that happen at this type of level of Ultimate anymore. Max, do you have any insights into what you would change if you were Colossus?
I would love to see them switch up their defensive looks. They've been holding them down on this low side of the field all game, and conventionally, you'd say that's the right thing to do. It's a tricky shot down the line, but Fishwick's been hitting it consistently. I'd love to see them force back the other way, make them throw into the wind, know that anything they throw is going to pop up, and get your young athletes into those jump ball situations and try and get a D and a turn that way.
With the wind, we normally see a lot of zone, but in this game, not so much. Would you suggest putting on a zone?
A zone has been tried, and I think you've got to back what your team provides. And what this 24-man roster of Colossus provides is plenty of legs, and they want to take advantage of that. Maybe exploit some of the older legs at the other end of the field as they shoot long. Bayer's in hot pursuit, but he's not able to track it down. They're about 35 centimetres out from the end zone as Rabber dumps it backwards. Clark does a good job of stopping that open under to the front corner. Wilson Looks back to the center, doesn't like what he sees. Can't see an easy option, goes up line. In traffic, that's a great hold by Benjamin Richardson. He beats layup line, and Lee poaching under can't get involved either. And that's an emphatic response from the Colossus D-line. Going break for break early in this second half. It's 10-8.
We see the replay, big throw down into the corner.
And that final flip for the goal, showing a lot of faith in the pace and ability of Richardson. When he threw that, he did not have a single inch of separation in front of Lay. Lay probably had position at that moment, but maybe recognized that Richardson, the speedster, was going to outpace Lay into that front corner and threw it and let his young receiver make the play, and he did just that. Fishwick will have to steady the ship.
Colossus closing the gap in. The game's not over yet. Any predictions for what we'll see for the rest of the game?
I think it's really a time for the Fishwick older heads, the veterans of the team, to step up. They need to be the ones that put this team on their back in this the latest stages of this second half. Likewise at the other end of the field, they've got athletes, they need to use them. They need to provide opportunities for their young athletes to make plays, especially defensively. Big pull by Wilson. Gibson stops it, and Fishwick will form up in their vertical stack, isolating Spender-Winder in space. Gentle thinks about the huck, doesn't want it. Instead comes back under, big gainer. That's a nice look as he finds Lay again underneath. Forces backhand, sticking to this low side. Lay goes crossfield to Gentle. Gentle looks for the inside to Bird, doesn't have it. Walcott comes underneath, looked off. Handlers playing catch as they recycle the disc, keep the stall count low, keeping that tempo high. Gentle goes to Spelderwinder again. It's a couple meters out. Watch them jam it in this corner again. And they find Gentle. Oh! What a great pickup. Centimeters off the ground, digs that one out from the turf. Asher Gentle. There's going to be a bit of a chat. He's pretty sure of it. Bit of a chat from everybody else, and that's a goal. Well done to him for holding on to this throw. It's a long way out in front when Spelderwinder throws it, and in fact, I think it may have bounced off Gentle's shoe to prevent it hitting the ground. Good use of the feet from the old man. Holds on to it.
Doing anything they can to get the disc up in the air.
Yeah, the rule is if it doesn't touch the ground, you're all right. Gets his right foot underneath it to keep that disc alive. When Spelderwinder threw it, the wind pushed it down a little faster than he would have liked. Demanding a lot from Gentle, but Gentle delivers as only he can. In response to the question on the stream, does David Evans pull off the white cleat, white sock combination better than his brother? My temptation would be to say yes, and he's pulling up the shorts right now. I'm loving that look. He spends a lot of time in the gym. I know that part of the preparation for this tournament is very important for him. He's been known to down a protein shake before a game to ensure he doesn't lose any of his muscle mass and his gains from all the cardio. And he's also looking good in those cleats. As Hames will launch a pull with his big lefty backhand. It's going to sit for a long time. Defenders are going to be underneath it when it lands. And in the end, it comes relatively short and just inside the sideline. And Clark will put the mark on Talbot as Fyshwick unit play some match D. They're in a horror, but Lance is hanging off the back, looking to help in the deep space if they need it. Talbot goes up line. Good hold by Hagloff. Hagloff,
I believe, coming from Sweden.
It's a long way to come for Div 2 Nats, but hey, we're in Wollongong, why wouldn't you? And Adrian Lim attempts the greatest, but doesn't actually manage to throw it back into the field. Instead throws it onto the ground. Not quite the idea, but points for trying to Adrian Lim. And Andrew Lance, as he has all game, will Pick up the disc, centers it to Hellingsmith. That's a nice throw. He'll shoot deep. He's got Hames underneath it. Hegloff in hot pursuit. Hames goes up strong. Throws the backhand immediately to Lee. It's the international connection to Lee from Germany. And that's another break to Fyshwick. And they stretch it out to 12-8. That's a 4-point lead. Fyshwick taking a commanding lead in the second half. They're in the driver's seat, in prime position to run away with it. Hellingsmith unleashing a beautiful backhand down that far side of the field. He liked the matchup. Hames very strong vertically. Going up in the air is his special talent. And he delivers there and then finds Lee streaming into the end zone.
Do you think that's the game, Max?
You never want to say never, but a 4-point lead in conditions like this at this late stage in the game,
Minutes to go, really.
It is worth noting that we started 4 minutes late. So we will have a 4-minute period of 4 minutes added on after the regulation hooter goes. Our game advisors will keep us updated as we approach the time cap. But we've still got plenty of time. Anything can happen here in Wollongong. And in conditions like this, we've seen points go quickly and we've seen points go slowly. Either one could happen. You know, it's very possible that Colossus get 2 or 3 quick ones in a row and suddenly it's game on.
Fishwick putting on a very young lineup with the exception of Bayers. I'll be interested to see what they do here. Sticking with man defense.
Lim pointing, doesn't like what he sees downfield. Doesn't look happy and ends up jamming a forehand into the grass. Gentle looks to move it quickly, goes to Bayes, goes back to Gentle. They're just going to play throw and catch all the way down this field if they let him. And it looks like they will, and Hames, in the end, as we said, there's potential for quick ones. But if it's Fyshwick that's punching them in that quick, this game may be over sooner than we thought.
Bit of a run and gun. I love a 1-2.
Yeah, a 1-2, 1-2, 1-2 in that case. That's a 5-point lead, closing in on the game. What do you think the difference has been in this second half? It feels like it's a whole different ball game. Fyshwick really had this ascendancy this half, whereas in the first half it really felt like Colossus.
That's right.
Maybe just the slightly better of the two.
That's right. I think Fyshwick really, they recognised their strengths and which we know is just jamming it down this sideline. They're just going to send it big. They're going to move it very quickly. They've always had momentum with the disc, which has been really good. The moment you get static in this wind is when it becomes incredibly difficult. And as a handler yourself, Max, you would know you want to move it quickly, get your defense offside so that they have to run to the disc.
It's clearly paying dividends for them, Hillary. They're up 13-8. There's a 5-point lead. It's interesting considering the earlier results today. Fyshwick, as we said earlier, you mentioned they went down to fresh chili. And Colossus beat fresh chili yesterday in a universe point game. And so we've got, it's going to be an interesting situation in the pool that will require some detailed analysis to identify just who ends up where. But in the meantime, Fyshwick unit have to finish this game before we start speculating about next round matchups. They've got a job to do. We've seen teams throw it away from positions like this. And Jeffcott thinks about throwing that one away. Holds onto it, goes underneath to Aiden Howard. Haven't seen a lot of him this game. And we get a pick call. Speaking of players that have gone a little quiet this game, Waller was all over the field in the first half, doing so much for Colossus. We've seen very little of him in the back half of this game. He was a real steadying force early on and hasn't provided quite as much.
Max, with a roster so big, you want to mix it up. You want to give your players lots of time on the field. These fresh legs, you need to capitalize on that. It's day 2 of Div 2 Nats. People are feeling tired.
And maybe that's the difference here. You wouldn't have thought it with such a big roster, but Colossus do look half a step off the pace right now as Wallace launches a piece of something.
I don't know how Byers got that disc, but he read that like a book.
Yeah, it was a pretty awful throw caught by the wind, turned over, and was in the end utter swill that gets pulled down by Bayers. And now it turns over as they go backwards. And they'll return the favour. Thomas Duncan shoots that one to the other end zone to Wilson. Wilson's been on the delivering end of packages like that all game long. And they mix it up and they're rewarded. Sticking that one down the other end of the field into the hands of Jake Wilson.
The game isn't over, is it, Max?
It's really not. There's still plenty of Frisbee to be played.
I'm sure in your time you've seen bigger comebacks than this.
Oh, without a doubt. Without a doubt. I've seen teams at higher tournaments than this. Recently in January, the World Under-24s, the Australian mixed team went out to a 7-1 lead before losing the half 8-7 and then going on to lose in Universe. So in terms of squandering large leads, this wouldn't even go down in the history books as one to remember. But
yeah, this is considerably a small lead if you think about it. It will be game to 14. We've just had confirmation that it is time cap now.
Rightio, so everything on this line. We've got pretty standard looking Fishwick set up.
So the time cap expired just after the previous point was scored, which meant this point that was just scored was the one you had to complete. And then we add one to the total, the highest total.
Thanks, Steve. So there you have it. From the official himself, it's a game to 14. The usual Fishwick suspects are on the field. It's just a standard O-line. They're not mixing anything up. They have faith. It's got them to this position.
That's right, Max. Why change it when it's working, hey?
If it ain't broke, don't fix it.
That's right.
And Richardson launches a pull. And it's a brick. Not what you want in a must-win.
I think they're calling offside there.
They're calling offside.
Call by the offense.
By the offense, there you go. It's a re-pull. Perhaps, Steve, this is a good opportunity for you to tell us what happens if there's another offside.
Well, if Melbourne go offside again and it's called, Fishwick will get the possession at the halfway mark rather than wherever the pool lands. Everyone sets up and we check it in.
Thanks, Steve. So that's something they don't want to do. 2 in a row, meaning you get the disc from halfway. That'd be a very nice position for Fishwick to have the Frisbee if Colossus is offside again. I'm sure they'll pay extra attention to staying behind the line on the pull. No signal from Hannah Monty, the game advisor, down that end. So we're in the clear. And Lay picks it up. Bayer's out in space from this side stack. And Lay does what he does best. Packages it up. Calls up FedEx and sends it to the end zone. And Nick Netcher got in front, but there'll be a bit of discussion. Bayer thinks he may have got a hand on that disc. Netcher definitely had position. Bayer had all the work to do in terms of going over the top and around. Got this one in slow motion. Netcher in front. Bayers does get a full hand on it.
He was already in front of you. He had clean. Yeah.
And an offensive foul, which takes precedent.
Well, that's basically offsetting fouls, so it would go back.
Go back.
Yep. We'll wait till it's on.
Okay.
So,
I think we did.
okay.
Right.
Okay.
I think you pushed into it before you were starting.
Okay, so I found it.
Yeah.
Okay. Right.
So it's an offensive foul here.
Yep.
So you're just playing the turnover, play on advantage. Yeah.
Thanks, Steve. We're able to hear the discussion that happened on the field. And the offensive foul is eventually called, and the turnover will stand, which means it's the Melbourne Colossus disc. And they'll bring it back in. Jake Wilson with all the work to do. They've got a full length of the field to run. And Fishwick doing a good job of taking away the unders. They center it. And they go to the high side. Disc in the hands of Thorpe. Younger brother of Pat Thorpe. Goes back to the center. Wilson comes near side and turfs the throw to Michael Simpson.
Forced error right on the end zone line.
It's not the place you want to be making that turnover in a situation like this.
It's not the time.
And Lay will bring it in on the end zone line. On the corner, he's got Bell in space. Doesn't want it. Can't provide much. Gentle's going up line, and that's an easy hold, and that's the goal, and that's the game. And Fishwick unit have taken it away from Melbourne Colossus. 14-9 is the final score. It was a tight one at half, and then the back half of this game, unit just really turned it on. Provided a clinic in jamming it in the jam hole up this near side. Their defense was just too good, and Colossus is not able to convert.
Max jamming up the jam hole. I think that is the line of the game. That's exactly what they did. That was their play for Fishwick. Any final words?
Only that there's plenty more Ultimate to come, and would recommend everyone stay tuned for that. In fact, next up we've got the Australian Flying Disc Association AGM ready to be live streamed.
Thrilling stuff.
It will be. It'll be edge of the seat material. You won't be able to tear yourself away. Go to the bathroom now. Stock up on snacks and drinks. This is one not to be missed. Do stick around. Proceedings will commence shortly. Just thanks for joining us from Division 2 Australian Ultimate Championships. Thanks for being there.
Alti.tv